guys, my name's Chris and we're here at One Stop Grow Shop with Colin from Grow Centre, the creator of this new shiny product, Mammoth P. So how would you recommend using this product to incorporate it in your own regime? Or?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. So the really interesting thing about this product is it's compatible across all management practices. It works really well in soil, in soilless, peat and cocoa, and even recirculating hydroponic deep water culture systems. Growers simply plug it in to their existing management practices without changing a thing as an additive to experience great results. Some of the big problems with incorporating microbes in agriculture and cultivation is what we like to call efficacy. Does it work well across different management practices?
Right.
And does it have a long shelf life? Because if it doesn't store on the shelf, it's really hard to use in our cultivation after we buy that product. Because of the way we selected these microbes, it turns out that these microbes persist really, really well together in this organic solution. And the shelf life data that we have, which is real-time data, is currently at 24 months. And so the shelf life in Mammoth P is 24 months, which is huge. We do recommend that once opened, growers use the product within 12 months, but honestly, the microbes persist very well. And from the manufacturing date, which is listed on the back of the label here, you can consider Mammoth P shelf life out 24 months, which is unique for a microbial product for sure.
And it's all manufactured in America. You're not doing like factories in Europe or anything like
We control everything. And so we're at Fort Collins, Colorado, just north of Denver. It's a great place. If anyone wants to come visit, we'll gladly host you. You'll love Colorado.
It's cool.
Yeah, come on over. And we have our facility that we do all our production. We do all our bottling and filling. We ship out of there. And so everything, that's our headquarters.
So we were on about shelf life earlier on. Does it have any temperature ranges that it can exist in and out of? Or
we actually scale every lot or every batch of Mammoth P from a negative 80 Celsius, a frozen stock. And so these microbes come from a frozen state in production, and we scale them up into multiple 100-gallon batches every week as needed based on demand. From the very beginning, it didn't feel like the microbes should be babied temperature-wise. And in our old facility, as we're growing, as we're scaling up, a young startup, we didn't have a heater because it's Colorado and it's really cold in winter. But we didn't have an air conditioning, and so the range went from basically freezing to almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And the microbial activity was just fine, and we test bottles to make sure that the kids, we train the microbes basically. As temperature increases slightly, what you'll see is the microbial activity increases with that. And that's simple thermodynamics. It makes a lot of sense. And so these microbes persist. So this consortia, these four microbes, these bacteria that work together, are really resistant to environmental fluctuations. And that comes down to one of the biggest factors in environment that can affect microbial viability or life in hydroponic environments and cultivation environments in general is pH. Shifts in pH really affect microbes in nature. And what we find is because this consortium works so well together, the microbes in Mammoth P can persist and function really, really well in a pH range between 5 and 9 without any issue at all.
That's plenty that you need for any kind of plant growth as well. Anyone going out of those ranges,
that's right.
It's going to take more than an eye microbe to get them growing, to be fair.
That's right. And I'll say also one last thing about recommended application. What we recommend is simply adding Mammoth P to your nutrient tank, mixing it in, and then you can deliver it to the plants that way. For the large growers that have large reservoirs, we know that the microbes persist in those large nutrient reservoirs for at least 10 days with no issue. Yeah, so it works perfect.
Is there potentially any products that could be detrimental to Mammoth P?
We haven't come across that. Any nutrient line seems to work just fine. There's endless permutations, and so we get feedback from the thousands of growers that are using Mammoth P across a lot of different nutrient lines. A lot of growers are using a lot of different media. I think the main media used in the U.S. is probably cocoa or a cocoa mix, cocoa perlite mix or a cocoa peat mix. It works very well across all those. There's organic growers, especially in the Pacific Northwest, where more of a complex super soil or compost soils used, and they're using Mammoth P and seeing really wonderful results. And again, in a deep water culture or recirculating system, where it's mostly or pure water, the microbes persist and function really, really well.
We have quite a large crowd of hydro growers in the UK. They're often inclined to either incorporate a chiller into the reservoir to keep the temperatures nice and low, or just go straight in with hydrogen peroxide. Would that be detrimental to the microbes at all in Mammoth P?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. So I think it's really important, I'll just say as a general statement, that beneficial microbes are interacting with plant roots to maximize that plant microbe interactions. And plants love that. We've seen that in a lot of these systems. We do also acknowledge that hydro growers sometimes incorporate either a chlorine base or a peroxide base solution to help sterilize those systems, and they do that mostly to prevent pathogen occurrence. Yeah. And so I think we tested these products on Mammoth P to make sure or to see the response, and we recommend that you don't add in the microbes at the very same time that you're adding in these disinfectants.
Right.
We do see a little bit of a knockdown, about an order of magnitude, but there's still tens of millions of microbes that persist from the microbes in Mammoth P. If you'll wait 12 or 24 hours after you add these chlorine or hydrogen products, they actually break down a little bit and they volatilize out, and then add the beneficial microbes in Mammoth P, you don't see any die-off, and the microbes can be delivered to the rhizosphere and interact with the roots the way they need to maximize plant growth and yield.
So is it just around the rhizosphere that it can actually do its magic, so to speak, or can it technically exist inside your reservoir, for instance, and chew up all of that pee and do something with it? Or
yeah, that's a great question. So the nutrient tank, the microbes will persist in there, but there's typically a low carbon source, and so they'll cycle the nutrients, but they'll do a lot more activity once they're delivered into the rhizosphere or root zone, where they interact with the roots. And what happens is the plants actually feed the microbes carbon to instigate activity, and in turn those microbes will cycle the phosphorus and nitrogen that the plant's asking for to maximize plant nutrient uptake.
All right. So for an example, let's say that you were going to make your own reservoir mix, you had your own products. Is there a certain order that Mammoth P would need to be added? Does it last or first or in the middle?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think in general, the best order of adding nutrients is, of course, have your water, and then mix nutrients, and then adjust pH, and then add the additives and the microbial additives.
Right.
In general, that's the best sequence of events.
We've noticed on the bottle that you've got different ratios for those different medias. Is there a reason for that at all?
Yeah, so I think about the lower application rates working really, really well in like a cocoa and hydro system, because there's less substrate for the microbes to negotiate or navigate through to interact within the root zone. And so it's more of a fluid media, or obviously by definition, if it's just a recirculating hydro system, it's completely fluid. And so the microbes have full mobility. As the substrate or media becomes more complex, as we move into the more peat heavy medias, or a soil or a compost type of soil media, there's more substrate and it's a lot more complex. And so we recommend higher applications to make sure that the microbes can be distributed throughout that rhizosphere and make it through all the media to get there and kind of coat the roots the way they need to.
All right. So it might be like an oversimplification, but it seems like they can sort of swim. And if they're in like a pure hydro system, you don't need as high a quantity because they can just swim around doing the job. But in cocoa and then in soil, it becomes a little bit more of a problem because there's more, solid matter and they can't really penetrate through that. Am I getting that right?
That's a great way to think about it, for sure.
With it being microbial, with it being alive, it's going to have some sort of limit to the EC that it can sort of operate in. Is it okay operating in a heavy PK environment?
Yeah, these microbes persist really well in a heavy PK environment, and I get a lot of questions from some growers, and they initially they're asking, well, can I use less nutrients? And hypothetically, you probably can, because the microbes in Mammoth P can actually unlock all these bound nutrients and are delivering more nutrients to the plants. And we did this experiment early on with some commercial growers in Colorado, and we were going to assess the ability of the microbes to actually deliver phosphorus, especially during bloom cycle, when the growers were adding a lot more in heavy PKs to help just really enhance that bloom during the bloom cycle to maximize yield. What we found was that instead of adding less fertilizer, the plants were actually able to stimulate their metabolism by interacting with these microbes and take up more of the PK booster, and it benefited the growers alternatively to add more PK or make sure they maximize that PK additive along with Mammoth P because the plants could handle it. Right, and they wouldn't experience any kind of micro lockout or lockout events by adding these PKs. Now the plants are just able to sustain that extra PK.
Because I mean, up till now, with it being quite sticky, as you've said, I think our main answer has just been ram absolutely loads in there, and then it can take a little bit. Lots will stick, but it doesn't matter because it can still take. So and like you mentioned, you get into loads of situations where you're getting little micro lockouts and stuff. So that will kind of take care of that, be able to make it a lot more fluid, if you will.
Yeah, that's right. There's two sides of that. There's making it available and enabling the plant to take it up. The plant will only take up so much with any kind of metabolic state, so to speak. But if you can increase the metabolism of the plant will want to take up more and can naturally take up more of that phosphorus. And that's great because if it can actually allocate it to the bloom sites to maximize the flower growth and density and yields.
So with this being an organic product, can people who don't usually grow organically, people who lean heavily towards your synthetics, it's okay to use, they haven't got to use nothing but organics, they can use Mammoth P with, for instance, some sort of rock salt that wouldn't interfere in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a really interesting value for the synthetic growers. This product, Mammoth P, enables growers who use all synthetics to incorporate some organics and microbials back into their management practices so they can actually take advantage of the plant microbe interactions that are really important for plant growth.
And on the opposite side of the spectrum, you get growers who will do anything they can to stay away from synthetics, the organics, if you will. They'll often, be supercharging their soil. Is there a ratio to which to use it and then a ratio where it's just too much?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we find growers that use super soils with a lot of heavy, slow-release rock phosphate or calcium phosphate fertilizer in their super soils that we recommend starting with half the recommended hydro application rate just to incorporate the microbes into those super soil type systems, and that's typically what they're called. It's a generic term though, because the microbes in Mammoth P will do a really good job of solubilizing rock phosphates, and it can liberate a lot of that phosphate in those super soils or those complex amended soils pretty quickly. But after about a week, the balance occurs where the microbes are interacting and cycling the phosphorus, and you can go back to that recommended application for those particular soil environments. And in organic soils in particular, microbes are critical to release nutrients. Phosphorus is really, really hard to liberate in organic systems, and so this is an excellent product to incorporate in any organic grow to help maximize your plant's ability to take up phosphorus.
Well, Colin, thank you very much for that. That was very informative. It was much appreciated, that was. If anyone would like any other further information, we've had these guys in all day giving lectures, making videos. We've got a wealth of information that we're all desperate to give out. If you want any questions answering, contact us. We can contact them, who can then contact us, and then we can contact you with the answer. That's absolutely fine. We've also got it in store. Pop in either in store or on the website www.onestopgrowshop.co.uk. I've been Chris, this has been Colin, and this has been Mammoth P. We're pretty.